Greetings, this is Jim Lindsay. This is a CIS 320 video, and in it I'm going to show you the FTP program called FileZilla, just like the creature Godzilla from the old movies. And it's free. It's available in the WKU computer labs. You can download it and put it on your home computers if you like, and it's easy to use. And so that's what we'll use as our sample program for FTPing, file transfer protocol, sending of files from one computer to another. Now, in a previous lesson you learned about web space. You learned what that was. You learned how to turn your web space on at Western. Now what I want to do is show you how to get something from your machine to the internet. We're going to do this through a couple of different helpers. First, we have this text file, and in the web space lesson I had you create a text file. Mine's called jim.text because that's my name, and all that's in it is just a sentence saying this is a sentence. This is as simple of a data file as you're going to find anywhere. So the first thing I want to FTP from my computer to my space is that one. If I can see that in a browser, that's a win, and I know I can then go from there to more complex things like a Visio file that's been converted to HTML, which you learned how to do back in the chapter 8 and calendar lessons. And so I created these files back in those lessons. And so you also learned back in, I want to say, the chapter 8 lesson about a specific line of code we can add to the head section of a HTML file, and I have that there, and we'll do that to make our page that we put up in the web space viewable in Internet Explorer 11. So that's what we're going to do in this lesson. How do you get FileZilla? What is FileZilla? Well, it is a program that is free, and you get it. Let me just open it up for you. I'm using Windows 10, and looks like this. It's and from the program itself, I'll pull up About, and I'll pull up its website, filezilla-project.org, and I'll put a link to this on Blackboard for you. But you can download the product from there. You can download this. You want the client, a FileZilla client, and if you click on this for all platforms, it's going to show you, all these different versions for Windows, for Mac OS, for Linux, for 32-bit versions, for Windows, etc. So basically for Windows 7, 8, or 10, this 64-bit is the way you want to go. You just download it, you do a default installation of it. When you run it, it looks like this. I'll go ahead and open up, go back to the product. It looks like this. Pretty simple interface. What you see on the left side of the screen is what's on my computer. What you see on the right side of the computer, or right side of the screen, is a display of what's the contents of what's on the computer I'm trying to contact. And so file transfer protocol software, FTP software, its purpose is to help you move a file from your computer to another computer. That's it. We're just going to move it from one computer to another computer. So in order to do that, you have to first make the connection and then do the transfer. So how do you make the connection? Well, you're going to do that through something called the Site Manager. If you click up on File at the top up here and go to what's called the Site Manager, it allows you to set up multiple what it calls sites. These are different places that you might want to contact. And at WKU, we're going to contact the web server, which is people.wku.edu. So how would you get one of these? How would you create one of these sites? It's easy. You click on this button for New Site, and then you get to give it a name. I'm going to call mine WKU Web Server, and then I'll go ahead and just hit OK. That's going to make me put the rest of the information in here. But the purpose of saving these different sites is that the next time you come back to use the software, you don't have to type this stuff in again. You just do it once. You make the site, and then when you come back the next time, all you have to do is just choose that one and hit connect, and you go straight into your space. So let's go ahead and populate the rest of the information. We only need to put in about 4 pieces of information here. We have to tell it who we're trying to contact. And if you'll think back to your web space lesson, the name of WKU's web server for us is people.wku.edu. So that's the name of our server. Okay? Now, the protocol that we use, the set of rules that we use to communicate with our server is called SFTP. So you drop this little drop-down box here. And we're going to use the secure file transfer protocol technique. That's how we're going to connect securely to people.wku.edu. As far as our logon type goes, you just do a normal logon, and then you put in your net ID and your net ID password. Once you've done that, you hit connect, and it's going to take you here. Now you may get a little screen. If you're at Western's WKU Computer Lab, you may get a little screen that pops up saying like, hey, do you want to save this key? Just say yes I do, or okay. And then once you've made the connection, you're going to see a little indicator saying that your directory listing is successful, and you'll see something appear like this on the right side. Now I use my web space probably every day. Every day I'm working, I'm connecting to my web space for something, and you guys don't. And so you'll see I have a whole bunch of stuff in here, whereas you probably don't have anything in there. You probably see just the folder with the dot next to it and nothing else. So that's the reason for that is that I've used this a long time and that I use it frequently. Over here on the left side, the way mine is set up, it's connecting to the desktop first, and that's fine. I like it that way. But if you want to navigate around, let's say you wanted to go to your documents folder, you just click on the documents. Or let's say you want to go to your my documents, you go there. But I'm going to work from my desktop. I find that to be the easiest. And you just scroll up and down with this, and you select the thing that you select the folder or the area you want to be getting files from by clicking like that. All right, so I'm going to work from my desktop. That's where I've saved my stuff. And over here on the right, this is in my web space. Now, let me go ahead, and the first thing I want you to do is to create a folder for this class. All right, and so I'm going to right click in here, and I'm going to create a directory. Again, what I did, where it has my net ID, I'm going to right click it, create directory. And I'm going to call this summer 2016. All right, summer 2016. That's a good indicator of what this is. Please note that all my letters are lowercase and there are no spaces in there. Don't put spaces. I also encourage you to not use uppercase letters. If you are going to use uppercase letters, use like all uppercase letters, or just capitalize just the first words, the first letter of each word, like capital S, summer 2016. That might be okay too. The reason I don't want you to not use capitals and not put spaces is because this is a case sensitive server, and if you put lowercase summer 2016 in here in a browser, if you typed in, you're trying to go to your web space summer 2016 with a capital letter in there, it wouldn't find it. So it is a case sensitive server. This is an Apache web server, and so since that's the case, very important, have a very consistent naming scheme. You'll see that all my stuff is basically lowercase. That's what I encourage you to do. It's just choose a way and then be consistent and keep naming stuff that way, and don't put spaces in there. Have you ever been to a web page and you look up in the web address and it has like all where there were spaces, you see the percent sign and then the letter 2, the number 2, and then the number 0, %20. What HTTP, that's the hypertext transfer protocol, it can't handle zeros, and it has to convert those to some character setting. And so if you put zeros in if I put this as the name of my folder, that's going to jack it up. Basically, when in order for someone to get there, they'd have to put summer%2016, and that's messed up. And so I'm just going to put summer 2016, hit OK. And did it create it? I'd have to scroll down here and see. There it is. There's my summer 2016. Now, if I want to verify that that worked, it's really easy. All I have to do, I'm going to go back to my browser. And if you're watching this, right after you watch the web space lesson, this will be easy for you. Go to your web space at the WKU server, and again, that's going to be people.wku.edu/ the first part of your email address, everything up until the @ and including the digits. Because I'm a teacher, I don't have digits behind my name, but you guys will. And you'll recall from that lesson I said, like, hey, if you can't see stuff at the root level, but if you have folders, you can. So that folder I just created was called summer 2016, right? If I type that in there, pow, there it is. So that didn't exist until just a moment ago when with FTP I created that folder. All right, so that's the process. So you right click up here, you create the directory, you give it the name you want, and you hit OK. Once you've done that, then you can, with your browser, you'll be able to see the stuff that's in there. Now, let's test and see whether I can send stuff back and forth. From my desktop, I have that text file called gym.txt, right? So over here on this side, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use little arrows here. Scroll on down until I come to gym.txt. That's the file I want to put in that folder over here. Now, to get that folder open, I have to double click that folder on the right side. So I'm going from the left, I want to take it from the left side into the right side. Now I have some options here. I could left click and hold and drag and drop over here, or I could right click and then hit upload. Either of those methods is going to send the file from my computer to this folder over here. So I'm just going to right click it, hit upload, and if I see it listed over here now, the file transfer protocol was successful. It sent it from here on my computer to the web server. To confirm it, all I have to do is go to my browser, and I'll now refresh my view up here where it has the refresh button, and there's that gym.txt file. And to view it, all I have to do is click on it, and there's that text that we wrote into that file. This is a sentence. So if you're successful on that, congratulations, you have just successfully web published something for perhaps the first time. And so again, hopefully that was pleasantly disappointing. That was really easy. Hopefully that worked for you. Where do people go wrong with this process? The most common mistakes that people make, they'll we already talked about the naming. They'll use capital letters or spaces in the name of the folder they create. Then when they go to the browser, they can't find the folder. That's really common. Another thing that people will mess up and do, instead of dropping that file into the right folder, they'll take that gym.txt and they'll put it in just to the JMS to the root. So I'm going to take this, I'll give you an example. Students do this. If I have a class of 30 students, probably 2 people will do this. I'm going to take this gym.txt here, and instead of putting it into the summer 2016 folder where I wanted to put it on accident, I'm just going to put it into my root, which is right there. So I'll just take this and then drag it, and hold on, let me just do it this way. I'll just right click, because I have so many folders it's going to try and jump into something. I'm going to right click and hit upload, and it's going to want to overwrite it. Okay, because I've done this before, I've done this example before. But if I go to my web space now, let me go back to my root here and refresh that view. You'll see it's still saying, hey, directory listings are not available, but that file I just sent over there is there. And I can test that by, if I jump up in here, if I type gym.txt, there's that file. And so that's a really common mistake that people make as well. They, instead of putting stuff into the correct folder like they're supposed to, they they drop it into the root. So if you thought you successfully transferred it but you can't find it in your folder here, then make sure you've actually opened the folder over here by double clicking and going into that folder. All right, now let's get our HTML that we created for the from the calendar lesson to the web server. Now I'm not going to show you how to create the HTML because I've showed that to you on multiple occasions. This calendar.htm and calendar files, those two items right there, we made those in the calendar lesson. So all I need to do now is get those from my computer to my web space and then try and look at those in the browser. I want to see if it works. So go back to my FTP client. As I look at my desktop, I gotta find, typically put stuff in, it puts it in name order, basically alphabetical order. And because those are called calendar, should be pretty close to one another. There's the calendar.htm right there. I'm going to select calendar.htm. I'm going to send it first. I right-clicked it. I'm going to upload. To put that into my space. Now, before I send the folder, let me go ahead and show you what it looks like if you just send the HTML file. And this will do the same exact thing if you use Microsoft Word or Excel or Publisher to create HTML for you, and you just send the HTML file, you get the same exact condition. And this will frequently upset students when this happens, because they say, hey, I FTP'd it to my space, but it's not working. Let me refresh my view here. Well, you sent part of your stuff to your space, but you didn't send the folder too. And when you just send the HTML, what you get is that you've sent the structure basically, but you haven't sent the pretty stuff like the pictures and the colors and the sounds and all that other stuff. You've just sent kind of part of it. And so, you know, you're seeing something, but you're not seeing the rest of the picture because you need the folder to go with it. That's something unique to Microsoft Office products when it creates HTML for you. Dreamweaver doesn't do that. So let me go back here. I've got to find that folder called Calendar Files. Calendar Files. This was also created for me by Visio. You'll remember that. And I'm going to now send the whole folder. I'm not going to go into the folder and send the individual things. I'm going to send the entire folder by itself. I'm just going to right-click it and upload. When it does that, this may take a minute because there could be 100 things, literally 100 different things inside of that folder. And there's the folder over there. So now if I now go back to my page and refresh the view, and by the way, you have to refresh a view because your browser just takes a snapshot of a page. Every time you go back to a page, it doesn't go and get a brand new copy of it. It's going to go to the last snapshot it had. So that's why once you make these changes in your FTP client, you have to then in the browser hit the refresh button. And that's a direct result of back when we had dial-up internet access across the country. Dial-up internet access is super slow, right? And so things like pictures and video, you know, heaven forbid you didn't use video back when you had dial-up because that's so big. And so browsers were built to basically catch these snapshots, and they still do that. But that's why you have to refresh the view, because this is not typically a real-time picture of what's in that folder. So I have refreshed the view here. Let me click on the HTML this time, and there's my stuff. And you'll see that this is that's what we were looking for. That's what we built with the Visio product. So once you use Visio to output HTML, an HTML file in a folder, you use this FTP product to send it from your computer to your folder in your web space. That's how that works. Now, let me do one last thing here. You'll note when I go to this folder, summer 2016, this page did not automatically pop up for me. Let me just refresh that. What normally happens when you go to a website is the home page pops up for you, right? And I've mentioned twice now the reason that we call the page that pops up automatically the home page is because that's what it's named. And so in the in the exporting process with Visio, when we were working with that calendar file, what we did is we named it home, in that export process. So let me send this one more time over to through the FTP program. I'm going to find the H's here. So back on my on my computer on the desktop, I'm going to come on down to the letter H. There's home.htm. I'm going to right click and upload that. So that's now in my space. And I'm also going to go to I'm going to find that folder home_files and upload it to my space. So now the home HTML file and the home files will be there. So the next time I go to my browser, it's now successfully uploaded those or transferred those. When I go to my browser this time and refresh this view for the 2016 folder, check out what it does. It automatically loads that file for me. So that's the process, and you know, all this stuff works. You know, we had like a Harley Davidson rally on the November page. It loads up. There's that right there. I still want to show you the last thing I want to do. Let me check time here. Last thing I want to do, I want to throw that little bit of code into the head of this file, because and re-FTP it, because I want this to work, to get the control click functionality to work in Internet Explorer. I have to add that line, but that's the icing. If you can do this, you are in great shape. If you can do this, what you have accomplished is basically you've created a cool Visio drawing, then you've output it as HTML, then you've activated your web space, you've connected to your web space with your FTP program, and you've transferred it from your computer to your space. And not only that, you've done it in such a way that it pops up automatically because you've called it home. That's a lot. That's not easy work. So what you would do for me in a homework assignment is you would send me that address, people.wku.edu, and then the first part of your email address / and the name of your folder. And then I could go and I could view it. Now, I'm going to copy this, and I'm just going to jump over to Internet Explorer, because I want to just remind you, with Internet Explorer, there's a weird thing going on with Microsoft. They took the vector markup language support out with Internet Explorer 11. This is where we get into the extra stuff. This is like, now we're talking like extra credit kind of level stuff here. Whether it's actually extra credit or not, I'm not sure. I haven't decided. But this is like, now we're hitting geeky level, all right? Posted it twice. Hang on. Okay, that should open up that page. All right, so this is the problem you get when you go to when you use Internet Explorer 11, which most people now have because of Windows updates. When you go to a Visio HTML file that's out there, you get this left pane doesn't pop up anymore. How do you fix that? Well, let me show you. This is just a reminder. I showed you this in Chapter 8. There is on Blackboard, I have a link to an article which explains the nuances of this, of what it's doing. But we need to add this line of code right here to what's called the head section of our HTML file. And so what does that mean? Well, I'm going to just use the home.html file. I'm just going to open this up with what's called a text editor. And you've used the text editor to create your text file, right? So I'm going to use my Notepad program. How I got that, I right-clicked home.html. I'm going to open with Notepad. Again, don't freak out. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this, but if you'd like to, I want to show you how you can get the most out of this program. I'm just going to go to this second line of this is the head section right here. See, there's HTML. This is the head section. And what that means is basically these are called HTML tags. Anything in these chicken beaks or these, greater than and less than symbols, these are called HTML tags. And the browser reads these and knows that, oh, okay, I've got HTML coming. Oh, this is the head section. Inside the head section, this is information about this file I'm about to read. So what I need to do is I'm going to click right here, hit the enter key, give myself an extra line, and I'll paste that line of code. that metadata information in here about the XML stuff, so to make it work with Internet Explorer 11. So now I'm going to save this again, and I'll close it. I'll go back to my FTP client. I'm just going to refresh my view. Just going to basically click to one of these other folders and then come back to my desktop where that stuff is saved. And the only thing I have to send is the home.htm file, because that's the only thing that changed. The home files folder didn't change, just the home.htm. So I'm going to take that dude and re-upload that to my summer 2016 folder. It's going to say, do you want to overwrite that? Yes, I do. So it does that for me. That was successful. Now if I go to Internet Explorer to that page, if I now refresh that, try that one more time. Okay, sorry for that delay. I had to open that up in a text editor, that file, get that stuff into a text editor, and then re-save it and re-upload it. So that was kind of weird. Sorry about that. But let me show you. So I'm in Internet Explorer, and let me. Nope, no, I'm not. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. I'm in Internet Explorer. I have this open on my computer. I can't get it to work off the Western server. I'm going to have to dig into that and find out what the deal is. But so this may not be possible with the with Western's web server. They may not have it set up to work like we want. I'll dig into it. But what on my own machine, you'll see I'm coming off this C drive instead of the web server now. And I'm looking at that home.htm. I added that text file, that line of text into my code. As I click on these items that have shape data, I can now see that shape data displayed right in here, and that's really kind of the desired thing to show up. That's the only thing that's missing in Firefox. When I go back to Firefox, and this one's looking at the version that's up on the web server. What you see there is you see everything except that control click functionality. You still get the searching ability. If we want to look for like bicycle cards, which is the sponsors of the World Series of Poker, we see that identified for us right there. So that's going. I'll see if I can chase down why the Internet Explorer 11 part isn't working off the web server, but other than that, we're in good shape. Thanks you guys for your time and attention, and I hope this will serve you